Hey, I'm Jacinta Daniel, writer, speaker, and host of Polished Jems. This podcast is for the ones rebuilding their faith, rediscovering their purpose, and returning to God, one fruit of the Spirit at a time. If that's you, hit subscribe and join the journey, because healing is possible and your faith story isn't finished yet. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Polished Jems. Here we talk about how we can heal and rebuild ourselves with the 9 fruits of God's Spirit. Now, this program was developed, actually, this podcast was developed from my blog, fruitfuljems.com, as a way to have deeper conversations about the 9 fruits of God's Spirit that we discuss on the blog. So, guys, I'm your host, Jacinta Martin, and I am the creator of the blog Fruitful Jems and this podcast, Polished Jems, but also our YouTube channel. Guys, you can find us on YouTube. And we do a program called Solitaire Gems over there, where we give you one good nugget to get you through the week. All right. And also, I am a 2-time author and a real estate agent in the state of Georgia, and a mom of 2 children. I have my contributor with me, Jessica. Jessica, I am going to have you introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Fessa. I'm a writer. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm also a contributor with Fruitful Jems. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, to Haitian parents. I'm married and have a beautiful daughter, and my husband and I are having our second child. We're excited for. And my hopes for this venture is to influence and bring new perspective to the readers and bring them closer to God.
I love it. Thank you for introducing yourself, Jessica. So, guys, February, we've been talking about the topic of love is what we've been doing, guys. But even if you're listening to this after February, not a problem. Love still needs to be talked about. That's a year-round thing, actually. Okay. It's not just about the Valentine's Day, even though we love to get gifts. Who doesn't? Right. But at the end of the day, God is love. So that's what we've been talking about. And Jessica's blog that we want to go ahead and do a deeper dive and focus in was about being a vessel for God's love in a not so loving world. Wait, I'm going to say that one more time. That was being a vessel for God's love in a not so loving world. Now, what this blog was about, I'm going to give you a brief description and then we'll jump right in, everyone. Jessica talked about how to walk through the difficulties of life while learning how to apply God's love. And even through her perspective, we can actually see how we can be a vessel for God's love, even when the world around us is not so loving. So, guys, I want to pose this question. Actually, Jessica posed this question. Hold on. It's from her blog. Let me reiterate that. She posed a question to our readers. What is love? Now, when I saw that question, I was like, oh my God, that is broad. I was like, how do we describe that to people? Because each and every one of us have our own definition of love. We see it in different ways because of our circumstances, what we've even gone through, whether it's been family members, friends, right? They make our definition of love. So let's start there. Let's unpack this. How can people recognize love, even when it comes to us? What's the definition of what is love that they can even look at? And I want you to explain, more importantly, what is love to you, Jessica?
Thank you for introducing that. But that's a great question. And like you said, love is through our experiences. As a kid, I've always defined love as action, right? If you say you love someone or you care about someone, you show them, right? But as of lately, especially when you turn on the television and you see how not so loving the world is, right? Countries, communities, even within our country now, like the divide of race and gender, and I mean, it's just an enormous amount of of things that is unloving and the reason for that unlovingness. So I didn't realize it then as a child, but we know the famous, love is patient, love is kind, the small details of it. But I raised that question, what is love? You know what I mean? Like, if we say we love somebody, then why don't we show that? Why don't we show that? Why don't we express that more? Why don't we get outside of ourselves, be more selfless, and really express, where do we get that love from within ourselves, and where does it originate from? So to me, again, like the question to that, for me, love to me is showing the people that we care about, even strangers, people we don't care about. We show that via action. That is love to me.
I love that you said that, because I was even talking with my daughter about this, and explaining to her that love is not a feeling. She was looking at me going, "What are you talking about, Mom?" I was like, love is not a feeling, because our feelings are fleeting. They are up one minute, down the next. We can go through 24 hours of feeling love to then being angry or sad, right? So I was trying to tell her and explain to her, no, love is action. I said, when mommy gets up at 5 a.m, like, mom loves her sleep. I need you to understand this. But when I get up at 5 a.m. and I make your food without complaining, that's me showing you that I love you. I said, you might not take it as such. This is how we miss love, because it's the little things. It really is the little things, right? It even goes back to that Bible verse where God talks about, like a good father, when you ask for bread, I'm not going to give you a stone. I'm going to give you bread. That's love. So it's that action part. Or as we even talked about previously, and guys, go back and listen to Jessica's other podcast, okay, with me, because in that we even talk about God showing us love in another way as well. So when you guys see that, the different versions of how he shows us love, and that he's right on time, not always when we expect him to be, but right on time when we need him to be, that's a version of love as well. It's that action behind why he shows up, right? That's love. So I want you guys to be mindful of that. Love is not a feeling. Get out of this worldly misconception, right? That we have to feel loved, even by our spouse, or even by our kids, or even by our parents. No, it's the little actions. It's those little actions. So if you're wanting to know if someone loves you, watch their actions, check their fruit. You'll see if it's love there. So guys, I want to share a quote with you that Jessica even said in this blog. She said, this love and hope were a gift given through sacrifice to the body, kind of like leaking leaking some air out of an overblown balloon to release some pressure. I'm gonna read this again because my tongue. But let me read this one more time. It says, this love and hope were a gift given through sacrifice to the body, kind of like leaking out some air of an overblown balloon to release some pressure. The pressure is still there, but not as much. So let us know more in depth about what you meant by that, and even how it relates to love.
Okay, now I'm glad you asked that question. The reason why I wrote it like that, there was a movie that I'd watched recently on Netflix called The Shack. Okay, and if you guys don't know about it, just take a look at it. It brought a different perspective as far as our relationship with God. When I say that, usually when we're going through something intense, especially, we just want the problem to go away. It's not going to go away. Just know that it's not going to go away. But God's role in that trial, in that intense, I feel like I'm going to just give up type of moment, he is letting you know, I'm right there with you through that moment. As you experience the joys and all the pleasures of your life, I'm there when you're winning, when you're progressing, when you're happy, when you're joyful. I'm also there when you're at your lowest, when you're crashing, when you're in pain, when you're suffering. I'm right there. I never left. That's what that expression comes from. You have all this pressure. It's intense. You're in the midst of the storm. And I mean, you don't know what to do. You don't even know where you are in the space, right? If you're closer to the edge, right in the middle, in the eye of it, you don't know. But if you just have, he is that sense of hope and that love, like, okay, she's going through something or he's going through something. Let me just kind of just take a little bit of the pressure off. She needs to still go through it. Is there something I need? You know what I mean? In his perspective, there's something that I need this person to get out of it, right? Diamonds. How are they created? It's coal and pressure, right? Diamonds just don't just show up. No, they're created via pressure, and it's coal and pressure together and you get a diamond. Okay. So we have to remember that. So the problem's always going to be there. The pressure is going to be there, but God is that source of reverence, that source of support and comfort to release some of that pressure. We're going to go through it. It's going to still there, but it's going to be released a little bit just so it's not as hard, because he's always going to provide a way out of the situation. You just kind of have to let it run its course. So that's where that coming from.
I know for many people, especially if they're listening and they're going through, I know that doesn't sound the most comforting, right? I know. But let me tell you guys this, what she's saying is definitely true, because I've tried to jump out of situation. You know how people talk about trying to jump out the fire? I have tried. Let me tell you, it doesn't work that way. Because what ends up happening is especially if there's a lesson that God wants you to learn while you're in the fire, best believe it's going to show up in another fire. That same exact lesson. It might be a new person. Oh, and my favorite, if you run to a new town, it's going to be same thing in that new town. If you try to just outrun it for one, let me explain. If you've ever read the story of Jonah, if you try to outrun those lessons of pressure, storms, trials, whatever you want to tag a name to it, that come our way, if you try to outrun them, they will show up in something else. Because what they're here to do, just as she said, it takes the pressure to turn the coal into a diamond. That's actually, I'm so glad you said that too, because that's actually where Fruitful Jems, on my letter to the readers who come to our blog, that's actually the quote that I have up there about the pressure needed to turn the coal into a gem. It's just about the friction that's needed as well. So I'm so glad you said that. I was over here smiling, going, oh my God, that's so wonderful. So also, Jessica, I love that you say this in the blog too. You say that we must not waste this gift and opportunity that God has given us to share with others openly and freely. Now, you might be wondering about those who deliberately try to tear you down or just haven't gotten with the program yet. This character is definitely in the world, also in our families. Now, let's talk about this. I know this might be a touchy subject, right? But how do we share love openly with those family members, right? They should know us by now, or at least we think they should know us by now. But they act in this manner from time to time, or they act in this manner all the time. And it's not the easiest thing for us to deal with. So any suggestions, anything from God that you received, what can we do?
Okay, great question again. In this situation, we have to understand when people act a certain kind of way towards us that we don't like, or in our cases, in cases of being within our family, our family members have a tendency of keeping you in a box, right? So the person that you used to be as a child, or a struggle of yours that you used to have that you've outgrown, you're no longer a person anymore. So it's almost as if they're using certain things against you that is not of an issue for you. So you have evolved. They haven't. It reminds me of in scriptures when Christ was on the cross and he's dying. You know what I mean? They have no idea why he's doing the fact that he's in that state and had not fought. He had the ability to change the entire situation, but he didn't. And one of the things that Christ said to God, to the Father, was, you know, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. Right? So the point that I'm trying to make is, when it comes to the people, strangers, family members, whoever it may be, you are in a position, the responsibility and the gift that you end up acquiring through your journey, you are in a position to have more that means you have more knowledge. When you have more knowledge, you have more control, right? You have power, right? And so you giving in to others that have not challenged that power, that knowledge, that gift, you have a responsibility to not engage in that. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's all going to be very challenging and difficult. But what I'm saying is, you have to remember that they have yet to receive that gift and knowledge and responsibility as you do. I think there's a quote in Spider-Man where his Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So if we know we have something very valuable, like our kids, and you know a person in your family or a friend, you're not going to give your kids out to anybody to watch, even if it's a school, a daycare, whatever. You're not going to give your kids something valuable and cherishable to you. You're not going to let them, you're not going to let anybody just do whatever with your children. So take that as something of that value, importance. You've worked very hard to get to where you are. You're not going to allow anybody to pull you back. But, life is about tug and war, the spirit versus the flesh. That's part of the human experience and the spiritual experience, right? But just make sure that you find that level, that ground, that common ground, and stay connected, and being, like you always say, Jacinta, staying at the Lord's feet, remembering who you are in this process, and not letting anybody drag you down, if family included. But you have to find that inner strength and be like, you know what? I'm finding who I am. They haven't yet. I'm gonna pray for them, even if it's from afar. That's okay. You have to give yourself permission to grow, to progress, and understand that you're just in a different place. Be okay with it. It's going to take some time, but you get there.
That was so good about family, because that's such a sensitive topic, right? The inner workings of family, and just truly how to really love them. Even if it's sometimes from afar. I know that's hard, because these are the people that we want to really truly understand us, even versus our friends, right? We expect our family, especially if they're close, to really know us. But what God is showing me, He doesn't show everything about you to everyone. One of the things that He told me in a previous blog that I wrote about was that I'm the only one I need you to trust in totality. And equate trust with love, right? Equate it with that, because at the end of the day, to trust God is to love Him. Because you can easily ignore Him and be like, sir, I don't know what you're saying over there. That sounds really impossible. I don't want to do what you're asking me to do. That's why, that's where we get that part about a healthy fear of the Lord. People don't realize that healthy fear comes from, I have evidence of trust that show me why He loves me. So in knowing that when He actually speaks a thing to me, I can trust that it's good for me. The journey might not be easy, Listen, I've looked in all 66 books. I wanted to find the word easy. He even told me, he's like, I don't even know why you're looking for that. But I tried. I promise you guys, I've tried to look for that word because I wanted to know, when does it get easier? He's like, I didn't say that. He said, I would make this light. Now, see, that's when you have to go look up the definition of light, but also his definition of light, right? Not just the Webster's dictionary version, but you actually have to go look it up. What does God mean by light? So I definitely encourage that, especially if you're dealing with family tendencies, issues, and things like that have you frustrated in this season. Because as you're growing, that is going to happen. You're changing. You're becoming a new creature in Christ. So tension's going to start to arise and build up, whether it be your spouse, your children. Listen, I've had weeks that my children were acting up and I had to go to God and go, okay, what is this? And what is happening? And he guides me through it. Okay. You will be guided through it, no matter what it is as well. So Jessica, one last statement I want to look at, because I love this movie, by the way. You said that this reminds me of the scene in The Lion King where Mufasa's spirit converses with Simba before his return to Pride Rock. Mufasa says, you have forgotten who you are, and so have forgotten me. Man, if I can't hear the words of the Lord so strong. And you said, look inside yourself. You are more than you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life. Okay. Oh my goodness, I love this. The more I say it, I see why you picked it. Let us know the significance of this powerful quote from the all-time favorite movie of mine from Disney, The Lion King, and how we can apply it, understanding how to become the vessel that God is calling us to be.
Like you, Jacinta, The Lion King is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. And there's so many powerful moments in that film, but that one obviously is the most powerful for me, my take out of it. But understanding how to be that vessel of God is, like I mentioned before, you have to know who you are. Scripture talks about how God says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Now, you mentioned something from before, definition. Our definition and God's definition is very different. And it's not, there was another podcast I had listened to of yours. You interviewed someone and they had mentioned about actually defining words in the scriptures, right? And depending on the time it was written and who was writing it and what they meant by it, you have to do some extra research and really just actually look up those words. What does that mean by knowledge? Now, he is the beginning, the end, he is the all-knowing. So what he knows and what he wants us to focus on is that knowledge. We have lost that. We have adapted to other customs. We have, migrated to other countries and adapted to their language, to their customs and their traditions, and have forgotten who we are in him, right? And with all these distractions and responsibilities, or whatever you want to call it, we just start floating, right? Scripture talks about you don't want to be a leaf. When the wind goes this way, you go that way. When the wind goes that way, the other way, you follow where the wind goes. You don't want to be that. There's no stability in that, right? And so when the quote says, you have forgotten who you are, so therefore you have forgotten me, meaning who you are within yourself, not the flesh, not what we look like. It's the spirit within us. It's the spirit that guides us, that tells us to go here, to go there, why we should do that. You know what I mean? Forget about the why, but how we should go about the direction that we go, right? If you forgot about that part of you, you've forgotten me. I'm the source. I'm the one that gave that to you, right? And so when it also says you are more than what you have become, right? So we go through life I was just talking to my husband about this like the other night. When we're children, we have a very free-spirited way about ourselves, right? I mean, we just came from the source. So, you know what I mean? So there's no conflict there and confusion on who we are, because the life hasn't really tainted us yet. And as you age and you have relationships and experiences, you start to question a lot of things, and you become something that you never intended to become, but because of circumstances or experiences kind of created the person that you've become. And that's part of my journey. That was part of my journey, until the spirit awoken in me, or I've allowed it to take form in me in a different way, of where I could be able to understand it and hear it enough and take action within it. So the part where it says here, you must take your place in the circle of life. And that goes back to being that obedient servant and taking responsibility, and the circle of life being a part of that body, right? The overall goal that God is trying to accomplish, being, planting that seed, being the light for others. And it's just a cycle. It's a life cycle. We're born and we experience stuff, and we have our relationship through the flesh. We have our spiritual journey through the flesh and fighting that tug of war, and through our testimony, because whenever you go through something and it doesn't kill you, that means you survived it. When you survive it, you got a testimony. You have to share it. It took me a while to realize that understanding, but I have a responsibility. Like I said before, when you know better, you do better. We have a responsibility. We're part of a huge cycle, a circle of life, and somebody behind us may be older than us or younger than us. It doesn't matter. They're going through something similar. We have a responsibility to share that. And take pride in that. Don't run away from it. Take on the challenge. Take on the challenge. So that's my take out of that.
That was such a good explanation of that quote from that movie, from The Lion King, because The Lion King had a lot of quotes that were actually really good about life. But thank you for breaking down that explanation of that, because at the end of the day, you're right. That's what being a disciple actually means. The disciples were literally fishers of men, literally, which meant go back and get someone else who's still stuck, right? And the ones that would hear the voice of God, meaning the ones that were stuck and heard the voice of God, literally dropped everything and followed. So it's one of those things of, they realized something had to be better than this, right? Whatever your this is, insert whatever you're going through. Because I know for me, this blog, this podcast, it just gives more meaning to my life. To hear the people who go, Jacinta, you helped me through ... right? When they fill in the blank, I go, I did? Little did, like, it's not often that we get to hear the impact that we have. But when God allows me to hear it sprinkled throughout my life, because he doesn't want to get me a big head about it, right? Never does he want me to go, oh, I'm the one that did this with Fruitful Jems. I'm the one that did this with Polished Jems. No. This is God's baby. This will forever be God's baby. And he will remind me of such. What God gives, God can also take away. So he demonstrates his love to even me through what I call God winks, where I get to hear the impact that I have along this journey. When this journey feels too hard for me to even go through, I get the winks and the nods from God that keep pressing, Keep going forward. I know the journey's hard. And that for me is how he also demonstrates his love along this journey of what I'm called to do. So just as Jessica explained to you guys, that's how I take my place in this circle of life, is rising to the purpose that I'm called here to do. And he expects Jessica to do the same, you to do your same, and so forth and so on. And even down to our children. Like my children, I'm responsible to even teach that to them, to sit at God's feet, find their purpose. Not just, hey, guess what? What are you passionate about and what do you want to do? No, no, no. God sent you here for a reason. What is that? Go forth and ask him. Because when they get in place and in position, it is to help somebody else find their purpose and their place. So why would I want them to spend time missing that when they could have a more fruitful life? So guys, we come to the end of this amazing episode about love. I hope it has blessed you. And please, 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 please share it with somebody else who needs this as well, this conversation. Do not keep this to yourself. Be a light to somebody else by sharing this. But Jessica, let's wrap them up with one final thought that you would like to leave them with.
I mean, you said it beautifully in your last statement. Rise up to the occasion. I challenge your readers to ask God, what is it that you want for me? I know you are a being of love. That's what you represent. How can I better serve you in that light? And how to, shield away from all the bumps and bruises that comes along the way. So rise up to the occasion. Really, really try to challenge yourself and do something a little bit uncomfortable. That's my ending statement.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for your time. And thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. If this is your first time, I hope you have been blessed and enjoyed this immensely. This podcast will be exclusively on our Patreon only. So you definitely want to sign up. If you want to share it with your friends, ask them to join as well on our Patreon page. The way you can do that is going to www.patreon.com/Fruitful Jems. And that's FRUITFULJEMS. Guys, we hope you enjoyed this. We will be back with more of our podcast episodes as well. So be sure to tune into those as they come out. But thank you again for your time and have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys.